So it's the Protestants' turn to make a move on the German Allied side. I don't think there's much they need to do. I think the infantry here will move forward to get into range. But the whole units will move forward to get into range, start shooting, because clearly next turn they're going to get attacked by the oncoming Catholic League forces. Here, a similar situation, I think. I think here the Swedes need to decide what it is they're going to do. They can, at the moment, they are mixed, but because they have regimental guns, that means that they have the same amount of firepower as their imperialist allies. So the firefight, if they went to a firefight, that would be even. If they went into close combat, that would mean they have an advantage because they have more pikes than their opponents. But their opponents are defending the riverbank, so that will probably cancel out. So I think probably what they need to do is they need to change for their layout. I think I mentioned before, one of the advantages of Swedish brigade units is that they can change the ratio of shot to pike that they have within the units for the best effect. So I think that what we will try and do, is the two leading units will attempt to change to musket heavy by moving all their musketeers to the front to fire. That will enable them to outshoot their opponents. On this flank, the Swedish cavalry need to reorganise. This unit has now stopped and rallied, but it needs to turn round and return to action. Here we need this unit to provide support for the unit in combat, and this unit here needs to press its attack. So I will now move those units which are easy to move and come back and show the others in action. As you can see on this flank, the movement is fairly straightforward. This group here move forward into range, and so we'll be able to shoot at their opponents. The Swedes here have moved forward slightly, but now need to roll to see if they can change formation. That is a formation test, they are not allowed to re-roll it. So this unit here is going to try to change to having musket heavy, so they can shoot better. So it's an action test, and it fails on a 1 or 2. It's failed. This unit here is also going to try, and it's rolled a 6, so this one has succeeded. What I will do is I will change the, there we go, and put these the regimental guns forward to show that that unit has changed to musket heavy. Here things are a little bit more complicated. This unit needs to wheel to line up here to be able to provide a rear support to that unit in front of it. That's an action test, so it fails on a 1 or 2. It rolls a 4, so it succeeds and can form like so. This unit has finished retreating out of the way and must now about face to join the action again. About face is an action test, and so that is all they can do in their movement. So they will roll a dice and need to roll above a 1 or 2. So they have succeeded. So the unit turns around and can move next time. Here, the unit is going to move into contact with these light horse. Moving into contact is an action test. So it rolls for that, it rolls a 3, and they move into contact. Okay. We've not quite finished though here, because one of the abilities of light horse units is that they can attempt to pull back from contact. So even though it's not their move, the Catholic light horse can attempt to pull back and leave the oncoming Swedish cavalry floundering. So to do that, it's an action test. So they roll a dice, and they've rolled 5, so they can pull back like so. Okay, that completes the movement for the Protestant forces. Let's now do some combat. The first thing that must be decided is where the Protestant artillery will fire this turn. The most obvious target is the early tercio that's more or less in front of them. That's going to be taking a morale test later in the action, so we will put the smoke on there to indicate that's the target. On this flank we have a number of firing tests. I don't intend to go into them into great detail, but hopefully you should be able to understand that most of it. I'll just quickly do this one here as an example. So here the Protestant infantry is firing against these Catholic infantry. Because the Catholic unit is under artillery fire, it gets a -1, but the early tercios automatically count as being given rear support to themselves. That effectively their depth is so deep that they count as automatically rear supporting. So that unit is going to get a +1 for rear support, but also a -1 for being under artillery fire, which is a straight dice roll. 2d6, and they've rolled 5. The Catholic leader is all the way over here, so they must take a hit. The early tercio units have 5 morale failures. To show 4 morale failures, I put an orange dice onto the unit, and that'll keep on being taken away. It should be borne in mind that that gives these units a great deal of staying power, but if they ever score a modified score of 3 or less, then the entire unit is destroyed, no matter how many lives it's got. I will now roll for the rest of these units and then come back with a report on what happened. So I've now completed the morale tests on this side of the action. This unit here, the elite unit, passed without any problems. The unit next to it, the cuirassiers here, they failed their test and took a morale failure. If you recall, most cavalry units have 2 morale failures, but some, such as cuirassiers, because of their large size and increased armour, get additional morale failure, so they have 3, and losing 1 takes them down to 2 left, and I depict that with a white dice on there to signify that. These cuirassiers here passed without any problems. This unit on the end, though, it initially failed its morale test, but the commander then joined the unit to give it a second chance to pass, which it succeeded with. Let's now look at the other flank. On the right there is only one morale test to be taken because the light horse unit here, which is initially contacted, managed to pull back, and these Swedish cavalry here do not have the ability to fire. They could do so if they had commanded shot, but that unit has never had commanded shot. So that leaves just this unit to take an action test, this cuirassier unit here. If you recall, in their Catholic last turn, they defeated a unit here and then pursued into this unit. Pursuit in this is a negative thing to happen, so they do not get any bonus for it. They are in disorder and blundering into the fresh unit, so they receive a -1 for that. They do not have rear support close enough because they leave the rear support behind, so they're on an overall score of -1. There's no other factors that could be taken into account. So they roll the dice and they get 3. -1 is 2. So a modified score of 2 or less is normally the unit is eliminated. But luckily for them, they have their commander here in close proximity, so he can come to join the unit and can now give them a second attempt to pass their morale test. Does not change the odds at all, but he does give them a second dice roll at the same odds. So what they roll again with the -1, and this time they have 6 -1 is 5, which is they take a hit. So the unit receives a white dice, so they have 3 lives like the unit on the other flank, and they've lost 1 and down to 2, and the unit withdraws back to here. So the unit withdraws back behind it's this unit, which is a supporting line, and then halts. That's one of the big advantages of having multiple lines in cavalry, so the units do not disappear into the distance. Meanwhile, the victorious Swedish unit must take a pursuit test. A pursuit test is if they get the modified score of 4, 5 or 6, they pursue. They get a +1 because they are trained, but they get a -1 because they have their commander close by. So it's a straight dice roll, they roll the dice and they score a 2, they don't pursue. So that is the end of the Protestant turn. It's now time for the Catholics to have another turn.